Well, hello there, folks, and welcome into TK Power Sports. There are a few things in life we can be sure of: death, taxes, and that Honda is not going to change its ATV lineup unless it absolutely has to. Case in point right here, the Honda Foreman Rubicon. Yes, there have been incremental changes over the years, but the basics of this ATV have been the same for a long time. So in this video, we're going to go for a ride. I'll tell you about the power, the handling, we'll do a top speed run, and then try to sort of answer the big question. Is the fact that this ATV ancient, does that make it a bad thing? Well, let's dive into that right now. Let me hit you with the important numbers now. So overall length on this unit, 86 inches. Width comes in at 47.4 inches, while ground clearance is listed at 9.7 inches. The wheelbase on this Rubicon, 50.9 inches, and the curb weight, and that includes all of the fluids, is 730 pounds. Now, speaking about fluids, the fuel capacity here is 14.7 liters, while the cargo capacity is 99 pounds on your front rack and 187 pounds on your rear rack. Finally, towing capacity is listed at 600 kilograms, which is 1,322 pounds. Let's look at all the features now, and I have to start by telling you about the power plant. So this is a 518cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, and it's only been a few short years since Honda upgraded this engine. Now, they didn't go big bore, they didn't put 1,000 or an 800 in here, but yes, we got a few more cc's pumped up to 518, and they said they really focused on sort of the low-end power delivery. So it's not just about a screaming top speed, it's about getting more usable torque with this 518. So this is the Rubicon Deluxe that you're looking at right here. So this thing is basically fully loaded. You're getting this big steel bumper up front. It is also fit for a winch down below, so it's winch ready if you were to install one after the fact. Another nice thing up here, you get a little bit of nose storage. It's just this little bin, flips open. I don't know what you're gonna stuff in there, but you know, I'm of the opinion on an ATV, you should have as much storage as possible. So I like to see Honda adding that in there. And then right behind, you also have a little access panel, pops off like that. That lets you into your coolant right there, so your coolant reservoirs, and then you also have a power connection right there. So yeah, nice little access hatch. Why not make working on your ATV easier? Now, I mentioned the front rack capacity at basically 100 pounds. Another thing you have to notice on this rack, these cutouts, these are for Honda Pro Connect accessories. So you can get a number of different accessories that fit right in there to your rack. So I appreciate that. All brands have kind of done that, but it's nice to see Honda's right there with them. Down below, you're getting a set of 25-inch tires from Maxxis, slightly wider in the back than they are in the front, and behind them, a pretty typical dual A-arm suspension setup with preload adjustment on those shocks. Up front, 7.3 inches of travel, and then in the back end, you're getting 8.5 inches of travel. Now, once again, as I roll back, gotta point out the storage. You're getting a nice little bin over here, integrated right there into the fender. Another nice spot to just toss your stuff, gloves, nuts and bolts, whatever you might have with you while you're out working. Nice to be able to toss them in there. As we get to the very back, I can also show you, very easy to remove the seat. And that's gonna give you access right there into your breather box and to your battery. So nice to have, again, an easy seat to come off. There's also some fuses and some pre-wiring here for different accessories if you were to add them in. Oh, we can pop that back on there. Ooh, this seat's hot today. It's sunny. That's what you get with a black seat. Now, finally, we get out to the back. You're getting a little bit of tail storage. It's like a little trunk here that opens up in the light. It's not that deep, but I'll say it one more time. More storage is always better. And then finally we get to the hitch situation. So I mentioned just over 1,300 pounds of towing, but what you don't get is a 2-inch hitch receiver. In fact, you just get this little plate, and this is only ready to accept one size of hitch because that hole right there is not going to change size. So you can't even put a 2-inch hitch ball in there. I don't like that Honda limits you to sort of that smallest size of hitch ball. Basically every other brand has just built in a 2-inch hitch receiver, because if you buy an ATV, there's a good chance you already own a truck and you already have that 2-inch hitch receiver, and then you get to decide what size ball goes on there. So yeah, I really dislike the fact that Honda has limited us here with its hitch. I'm gonna go over the controls right now because on a Honda they are a bit different, and that is mainly because this is a 5-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. Yes, this thing is gear on gear, no CVT, no belt here. Now Honda has had these shift it yourself buttons for many years, but there are a couple differences they've brought to this model and I want to show them to you. So I mentioned it's a 5-speed dual clutch. You can shift it yourself if you put it over here into ESP mode, or you just throw it into auto, and as the name suggests, that is fully automatic. Right above here we have our 4-wheel drive control, so there's 4-wheel drive, and there's your locking front differential. Now I'll start it up, and you can see right now we are in neutral right there. So even in automatic, you can shift up, and that'll take you into drive. Now, one thing Honda realized a few years ago is it's annoying to go into reverse through neutral, so they fixed that. You can now grab this little red toggle switch up here on the handlebar, you hold that down, and from drive, you hit the downshift button, and it skips neutral and takes you directly to reverse. It's a little thing, but that's gonna save you a few seconds, and if you're constantly going from drive to reverse, that's gonna really matter. And then when you're going back into gear, you have to shift through neutral and back into drive. And then like I mentioned, if you wanna shift it yourself, you can see right there, you can roll down the trail and you can be shifting yourself with these controls. So yes, the 5-speed, you know what, it changes the controls here. It also just changes the entire character of this ATV, and it's certainly one of the most unique things about this Rubicon. Well, we're riding now, folks, and I want to start off with our rock pile here. Yeah, it's a big pile of rocks, and we're going to crawl over it. This is all about sort of low speed, torque, and traction. First of all, I am going to put the machine down into low, so that'll give us a feeling for what low feels like. And then I've locked it in first gear. It's also nice with the manual mode, you can just lock it in first. And I'm going to start in 2-wheel drive, just to see what happens. So here we go. This is pretty steep right here. Oh, hello. Feels a little sketchy when you start slipping. Ah, not quite. Maybe I could have done it with some momentum, but let's go into 4-wheel drive because that's what 4-wheel's for, and let's see how much easier this is in 4-wheel. And I'll also say, power feels okay. I got to dig into it a little far into the throttle. Oh, baby, but now we're getting up here. Grip feels decent. Oh, brakes feel strong. Good chance to test the brakes. And we're down. So you know what? It's not an insanely powerful machine. There's definitely some out there on the market that are going to feel even better in that low range. But still, it's scampered up and over the hill. Basically no issue in 4-wheel drive. Okay, folks, rolling into the water now here in the hydro line. There's actually not a ton of water here right now. I'm still going to lift my feet up. Now on an ATV, I know it's going to make it through. So I try to do something a little bit different. Let's see if we can jump up out of the ruts here. Ready? Come on, baby. Oh yeah. It's trying. It's fighting. Let's lock up that front differential. I go back into the ruts, it'll go. Here we go, yes! Oh, didn't get fully up, just my one side. So right now I can already tell you, it's okay here in the mud, but these are not mud tires. This is not a mud dedicated machine, and I can feel that. But still, as compared to a truck which is stuck in these ruts, with this thing, I should be able to play around a little more through the mud and ruts. Let's see if I can get up this side now. It wants to go, yes. I gotta work it. I want to do it now, folks. Now, power feels okay. My issue is just straight grip, straight traction. I can't believe I can't make it out. I'm so close. But I'm gonna have to give up before I make more of a mess. Okay folks, time for the top speed run. I'm here on this empty road. I've got it in 2-wheel drive, automatic mode. I'll be able to feel the shifts really well here too. Let's see what this thing tops out at. Ready? And here we go. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Saw it right there, 71 kilometers per hour, and that was not limited. It did feel like it would have kept going, so with the lighter rider you might get a couple more K, but yes, I managed 71 kilometers per hour as my top speed. Alrighty folks, just pulling into the shade here. Just got done my ride. You guys saw that top speed run. And you know what? I do want to talk about sort of my overall feelings now on this ATV. So when it comes to the power, and I think I proved this with that little rock climb, the low end is pretty good, but again, it doesn't feel sort of as torquey as some of those big bore ATVs. And I know I shouldn't compare them, but I kind of feel like I have to. When you do get up into the 800s and the 1000s, yeah, you can just creep through there with barely any throttle. Whereas this 518, I was feeling like I was really digging in to that throttle to get it to climb up and go. Now on flat ground in a straight line, it takes off plenty aggressively, and that is where the DCT really shows itself. So I'll say first, the downside of the dual clutch transmission is when it's cold, the shifts are very abrupt and kind of clunky. You really do get this big sort of clunky shift. You feel it through your body. You lose some speed in that shift. So yes, when it's cold specifically, you notice the DCT. Once it's warmed up though, the advantage of the DCT is how quick the shifts are. It's just bam, bam, they just fire off. And I said this before, I'll say it again. That is one of the main differentiating factors of a Honda Rubicon compared to other models on the market, is the fact that you're getting a real automatic, and feeling those shifts is so satisfying. The fact that they're so fast just feels really good when you're flying along at speed. And then more than that, I've been running in automatic mode almost all day today, and I just feel like it's always shifting when I want it to. When I'm coming up a hill and I feel like I need more power, it'll downshift. When you really put your thumb right to the bar, it actually holds the gears a little bit longer. So it obviously goes, he wants max power, we're gonna really rev this out. So I also like the way that the brain shifts here with the DCT. So outside of the kind of the cold shifts, Everything is great on this transmission. And yeah, I always appreciate more choice too. So the fact that you can shift it yourself is fun, it's appreciated. And again, like I did on the rock pile, you can lock it down in first gear or whatever gear you want. Now next up, I do want to mention the power steering here. It's actually pretty heavy. This is in stark contrast to say Yamaha, who in my opinion, they always dial their power steering in on the lighter side. Here on the Honda, the power steering is just enough to make it easy to turn the handlebars, but not nearly enough for me to ever call it numb or lifeless. You get a lot of life through these handlebars. You really do feel what this machine is doing underneath you. If you want to talk about sort of overall rider fatigue, sure, after a long day, this is going to require a little bit more work from the rider. But me personally, and this is an opinion, I like the heavier bars. I like feeling more underneath me. So for me, this is an ideal handlebar power steering setup. And then I should also just mention ergonomics. I fit great on here. It's a fairly wide, comfortable seat. I sink into it nice. The bars are at a good height for sitting down or for standing up. I don't feel like I'm reaching too far down there. So yeah, ergonomically, I also think this thing fits really well for me. Now, the final thing I'll say is just on handling in general. The travel numbers are not massive here, so yeah, you can sort of find the limits of the suspension rather quickly, but still, I feel like the handling is pretty sharp. I mentioned because I have that heavier power steering on turn-in, you really get this sharp bite and you feel it kind of pulling through your hands, but coming around those corners, the machine was going where I wanted it to. And then I was actually sliding it around quite a bit, especially in two-wheel drive. There's still plenty of power here to steer with the throttle, break your back end loose. So handling, I have no issues with either. And I think maybe just the easiest or best thing I can say is it feels competitive with every other ATV out there on the market. So now you've seen how this thing works. I don't have any massive complaints. Sure, it wasn't incredible in the mud, but it's not necessarily what you expect out of a machine like this. Although yes, I think the tires could be a little bit bigger as well. And that just sort of demonstrates a point that I made off the top, which is very simply, Honda doesn't like to change its models unless it feels like it absolutely has to. This is actually a bit of a philosophy of the big three Japanese companies, Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki. None of them are generally on the cutting edge of technology. Sure, they could be. I mean, in other areas they are. But in off-road, these three companies truly believe that tried and tested is better than flashy and new. And of course, we're constantly testing in the automotive world. If you don't know this, we have Truck King, our other YouTube channel, where we're always testing new vehicles. And in that world, it does feel like a lot of people, they just want the latest and greatest technology. Not to say they're willing to forfeit sort of overall longevity of the vehicle, but there is sort of a sense that, yeah, if I get the latest, greatest, flashiest thing, that's what I'm going to think about first. Whereas in this segment with off-road ATVs and side-by-sides, reliability is number one. When you're out there in the bush, in the middle of a swamp, the last thing you want to be dealing with is a machine that isn't running correctly. So you'll put up with a lot of things to make sure reliability is there. And that's where I think the mindset comes from at those three companies, and especially at Honda. This is a package that works, so don't mess with it. Now, they did change the engine. This is the 518. It's up, you know, a couple of cc's from before, but they did that about 4 years ago now, and they really haven't touched this thing since. New graphics and colors every year, but that's about it. But I'm actually gonna say that I don't think they have to. This is one of those worlds where I do call it old, but I think old is good because they understand everything about this model, how it works, what the weak points are, what could break, because they've seen it all break before, and that gives them that base of knowledge. So once you have that built up on a model, why get rid of that by introducing a brand new model? So in automotive, sometimes yes, old can be bad, but right here, this Rubicon, it doesn't feel like it's not competitive with other ATVs in its segment. And if it's gonna run and run and run, which I really think it will because most Hondas do, I would absolutely consider buying one of these Rubicons for the reliability over some of the other stuff and performance things that I mentioned. Now, let's dive into pricing. And that's another positive point on this model. So this Foreman Rubicon Deluxe, as you see it here in the United States, will sell for $10,600, while here in Canada, it's gonna go for $13,900. And both of those prices actually feel pretty affordable for the package you're getting. Once again, especially in light of the fact that we already know that this thing is as reliable as ATVs come. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one. Now, if you opt for one of these Honda Foreman Rubicons, you're not getting the latest and greatest in off-road technology, but what you will get is reliability and a machine that is just gonna go and go for many years and many miles. And honestly, in this segment, I think that's probably the most important thing. So you've seen it all now. Please drop into the comments. Let me know what you think of this Honda and of all the testing you saw in this video. As always, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you see every video we publish here on TK Power Sports. Oh, and maybe hit the join button to become a member of our channel. And then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. And if you'll excuse me, it's a beautiful sunny day and I got more riding to do. See ya!